Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Welcome back to Medium Duty at Large. It's where you say the tagline.
Oh, I don't remember the tagline.
It's our little show about a big industry. You know what? Can we pump the brakes? Can we go to commercial?
Oh, brakes.
I'm being told we don't have commercial breaks. But I do know someone who does have commercial breaks. Yeah, how do you like that? I am Kevin Linger, managing editor and producer at Fleet Equipment.
And I'm Jason Morgan, content director at Fleet Equipment, who doesn't know the tagline.
That's all right. We are here today to talk about Mevotech's new TTX commercial brake line.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
some breaking news.
There you go.
Who can play this game?
All right. Well, let's abandon this and get instead to the interview with our expert, talking to Richard Stothers of Mevotech to really break down all of the different formulations that they've got, what applications they're in, and why they decided to really target individual needs with separate types of brakes. We're here today with Richard Stothers, Senior Vice President of Engineering and Research at Mevotech. Richard, thank you for joining us. First off, how's it going?
Doing well today. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Now, we really want to talk about the brake products today because Mevotech's new line, the TTX brake pad, these are suited for vehicles up to Class 7, which is a new thing for you. So without giving away the secret sauce, what is it about these brake pads that makes them able to handle the stopping power needed for these heavy vehicles, and how do you safety test them?
So one of the things we really focus in on is the bonding of the friction material to the backing plate. So what we use is a combination of chemical and mechanical bonding. So we have a mechanical attachment mechanism that goes in there. That basically, think of it like a barb or a tooth on the backing plate, which allows the friction material to bond around it. So you're not only just using, like, I'll call it, lack of better description, a glue, where you're just sticking your friction material to your backing plate. We use a high strength adhesive, but in combination with that, you have little fingers or teeth that the pad is bonded around. So that's where you get both a mechanical and a chemical attachment. And again, especially with really heavy vehicles where you need a lot of stopping power, you also get into high temperature performance. Sometimes adhesives can break down at high temperatures. So the mechanical attachment works at all temperatures. And then the other thing we also look into is you can look at it from the out of the box performance, but we also look at the in application, what causes it to fail. And this is where we also, if you can see over time, corrosion can actually form between the pad and the backing plate, typically called rust jacking. And that actually can start to compromise that bond as well. So to address that, we've also put a corrosion coating on the back of the backing plate. So there's a corrosion coating that goes between the pad and the backing plate, which again prevents any of the rust that could happen that would penetrate underneath there and damage the bond. You asked a little bit about how we validate that. We do a variety of different tests. We do use a lot of engine or dynamometer testing, so inertia dynamometer testing, where we simulate the drive cycles of the vehicle. So an inertia dyna basically takes the weight of the vehicle. So if you got a 7,000 pound vehicle and you put a 7,000 pounds of inertia weight and they use the dyno to spin it up to speed and they try and stop it. So it simulates those high forces. You can then do rapid decelerations and accelerations, and then you can do that over a period of time. So you can go with very aggressive test cycles to really prove out that you're not losing any fade, any breakage. And on top of that, we do in-process production testing. So when we make a pad, with every batch of pads we make, we actually take and do a shear test. So we'll mount the backing plate in a fixture, and then we use the high force and make sure that we always have a minimum shear test that we're passing.
Oh, I just wanted to say quickly that I wanted to say, we all live in kind of a northern climate, corrosion resistance, that's very important heading into winter, but really with work trucks, it's all year round that is it could be such a benefit for someone.
Oh, absolutely. You're working in hazardous environments. There's, construction sites, any industrial site that has a variety of chemicals that can be spilled on the ground. Northern climates, especially salt and corrosion. But that's where we felt it was really important to build that corrosion resistance into the backing pad, because that's what the corrosion attacks. And then we also build that into our hardware kits that we provide, whether it's the abutment clips being stainless steel, all those things. So that's one of the things we see as a failure. And that's where we really, not only are we creating a good stopping power and wear performance, we're creating something that's going to survive in the working environment, in those hazardous environments of those fleet vehicles.
Right, so I'm guessing the corrosion resistance that keeps the friction material from flaking off or crumbling off the pad, right, which you see in some other pads that might not have that protection and reduces the life there. So you've got it on there, it's strong, it's reducing corrosion, intrusion there. But going back to it, again, lots of different job sites, lots of different braking duty cycles. You could have a lot of stop-start, you could have a lot of dusty and dirty environments. Anything else about maybe the pad construction or even the friction material itself to make sure that it's going meeting those expectations on the job site?
Yeah, the friction material, the one thing we do a little unique, a little different than maybe others, is we look at the application. We kind of go with a purpose-built approach. We don't believe that the one size fits all. So you hear there's always, when you're formulating a pad, there's a bunch of compromises that can be made. You can go with a really high stopping power, high friction, which maybe leads to some higher levels of wear or noise. But there's always something you're trading off between high temperature performance, fade resistance, sound, stopping power. So really what you want to do is start looking at what is the application, what is the purpose of the vehicle? And that's where we start making formulations. So we kind of have that, we have 5 formulations in this commercial market. So this is, again, one size doesn't fit all. So maybe, somebody may be wanting that high stopping power of that really, towing vehicles, or somebody really has the really high wear or really quiet applications that you maybe, if you're the Amazon delivery guy, you don't want to hear you're stopping that vehicle about every block to make a new delivery. And if you hear that squeaking noise every day, every 15 minutes, it's going to drive you nuts. So this is where we kind of get into certain things and looking at how that best suits the application.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
All right, Richard, well, you definitely win segue points for the day, because the next question I have written down here is that TTX brake pads come in several flavors, we'll call it, CeraPhite, SuperMet, Premium Ceramic, but there's 5 in total. So can you walk us through the differences between those?
Absolutely. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a purpose-built approach. So we look at we look at that formulation, look at the application, look at what the needs are of that specific application. So we start with our CeraPhite formulation, and that's kind of a ceramic graphite formulation that we've developed. We really target that for that final mile delivery vehicle. It's kind of, it's always on the go. You want that long durability, but it's really got that combination of stopping power, wear, and sound. So it's going to last on there. You're not going to have that squeaking noise every time you stop the vehicle, but it's constant stops and starts. So you need that high wear protection. Then we go into our SuperMet formulation, and this is really for that heavy loaded, high payloads, towing applications, where what you want is a good, consistent stopping power. You want to be able to, whether you're pulling up to a light, going down a hill, anything like that, you want a good, consistent stop. So this is where we're really looking at low fade or high fade resistance. So it's very stable, even as it heats up and performs over time, that you always have that strong, reliable stopping power. And that's a semi-metallic formulation. Then we get into our premium metallic. This is more of a low met formulation, a little less aggressive in stopping power, but still very good for heavy payloads. But this is where we get a little bit more of a durability wear into it. So it's not as aggressive in the friction, so we get a little bit better performance in the pad and rotor life. So this is if you're kind of your site applications, you're not doing a lot of heavy or constant heavy loading, but you're doing constant work on the vehicle. But this is that really full vehicle uptime that has limited load. And then we get into our premium ceramic. And that's really where we get into a combination of sound. So this is more of that vehicle that it's, quiet ride, consistent corrosion resistance, because again, the ceramics don't really have any metallics in them in the pad, and we have that corrosion resistant coating on the back. It has very good resistance to harsh environments. And then our final one is our Pursuit Certified application, and this one's really formulated for the police and pursuit applications. So this again is very quiet, but is also really meant there for good consistent stopping power. In any higher speed applications, you'll get constant braking. So this is and that's the application that sound and performance are key.
Yeah, I love that too because even as you've laid out here, right, vocational trucks, medium-duty trucks are purpose-built for their applications, and I think it's a good takeaway for fleet managers that a brake pad isn't just a brake pad. You have specific brake pads for specific applications there. Once we have the brake pad, though, we want to maintain it, and maintenance is a big issue, definitely given duty cycles and job-type environments. Any tips and thoughts about how you approach brake maintenance?
Yeah, and this is where we've taken another approach where we really, when we start looking at again what causes brake pads to fail, what you think about what causes brake pads to squeal or squeak, we kind of start looking at how is that just the pad formulation or is there other things associated? And a lot of times that's also, you have other worn out components or improper maintenance, or even something to do with what's called the bed-in process. So we really try to address that in our design. So when you open up our box for the first time, you will see not just a set of abutment clips, but you'll see a complete set of hardware. So you will have the abutment clips, the slider pins, the springs, the boots, because all these things that if you get corrosion on them, they start to get damaged. Anything that starts to prevent the pad from moving evenly and contacting the rotor evenly will start to create uneven wear or noise. And so with our abutment clips, we have stainless steel abutment clips with a PTF coating. So the Teflon coating allowing that pad to slide nice and easily and making nice square contact with the rotor. And then stainless so we don't have any corrosion. And again, that's all in the box. And not only do we put the hardware in there, we put in anything you would need to help install it. So we have a high temperature premium brake grease with PTFE in it as well. We also even put things like we have a little wire brush, so when you take off the old abutment clips, you want to make sure you get a nice clean contact. So we have a little wire brush that cleans the caliper contact surfaces. And then we also have, one of the things people often do is, if you take the caliper off, it has to hang in the engine on the wheel area. People either mount it or let it or rest it on something. We actually put a hanger so you put it right on the spring. So you're not stressing that brake line, which may cause a later problem. We also even have the bleeder screw on for the included in that kit. Helps you really tries to take everything into consideration that the technician would need when he's making that brake change, and not allowing him to the part's there. He's going to put a new one on. He's not going to leave the old rusty one on there. And this is really going to lead to really consistent performance. And then finally, we looked at what other things people don't always bed in the brakes. So when you start talking about bedding in, you want to do some final curing or just some really enhancing that nice smooth contact between the rotor and the brake pad. So you go through this bedding in process. But to minimize that, if you don't do it properly, it can cause problems. So we've actually done a post-curing operation on our pads to do any additional venting or off-gassing of the resins and epoxies. And then on top of that, we've actually put a burnishing layer on top of that, where it actually helps the rotor and the pad set together. So this really minimizes the impact of the bedding in. So we have a very quick bedding in process, and it adds makes it less sensitive to that. So this is where, once we've got the right pad and the right application, and then we got it with the right hardware and everything in place, it's just going to give you the best performance in the field.
Oh, some comprehensive answers to a comprehensive brake kit. Rich, before we wrap up for today, is there anything that you'd like to add that we missed?
I think one of the key things is when getting into the purpose-built side of things, it is a next level kind of sales. The one thing we're doing was we actually created a website too. We have the ttxinnovations.com. And that one, where you could go on and you can look, the fleet manager can actually put in answer a couple of quick, simple questions, and it'll direct him to what kind of formulation is best for his application.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that interview stopped me in my tracks.
Oh my gosh! I thought we left those in the intro.
You've awoken the pun beast. But again, going back to it, the takeaways of a purpose-built pad for a purpose-built application, I think that's huge for medium-duty trucks. Really liked all the maintenance stuff too. I mean, they include. I think he said kitchen sink at one point there.
I heard
for
that,
the maintenance part.
Pretty sure.
But when you're in a shop. Even the hangers, right? The caliper hangers, really just cool to be able to have all that at your fingertips in the box. You don't have to run around looking for the components you need. Goes a long way with brake maintenance.
Right. I can't even tell you how many times just in my office, which has 5 drawers, where is everything at? Or at my home garage, I don't know where anything is, Yeah. Well, that outro also very suited to the application. So I think it's time to call it a day.
Very good.
Thanks for joining us on Medium Duty at Large, our little show about a big industry. I'm Kevin Linger.
I'm Jason Morgan.
We'll see you next time.